time to wake up. The show is about to start. With lots of stories about poo and a bit of heart. When it comes to Joanne, no, you won't find no faults. But if you mess with the bull, you might get the schultz. It's time for Mornin'. It's Morning with Bill and Joe. It's time for Mornin'. It's gonna be a heck of a show. It's Bill and Joe.
Hello and welcome to Mornin' with Bill and Joe. I'm Joe.
I am Bill.
Great.
Thanks. I thought that was our best one yet.
You know, it was. Sometimes you seem unsure, but today there was confidence.
Yeah. Almost as confident as what's Lord about to do here. Eagle Nation.
Yes. Is that what they call them? I know it's Go Birds.
Fly Eagles Fly is their really annoying theme song.
Fly Eagles Fly.
You would think that this whole, it's hard for me to get it in my hand when they do this thing. You would think that'd be something that other teams would do to mock them. But indeed, that is actually the salute one Philly fan would give to the other. So much so that even members of the team, after scoring or sacking or whatever they're doing, they do the whole little flying thing. It's a lot of things. I wouldn't call it tough. It looks like they're little angels flying up to God.
Ooh, is there a team called the Angels?
Sure is.
Damn it, I thought I came up with something.
If I had a nickel every time that came out of your mouth.
I also appreciate that the Eagles spell their name. Apparently that's a big deal. I only know this because Bradley Cooper, when he introduced them, spelled the name out, which, because Eagle, it's sort of like Angel or Angle. You can get confused about where the E lives.
Actually, should we do the graphic? You've been really looking at
football. Yes.
A lot. Hard.
It's interesting. I've become really good at looking at football.
I've noticed.
I looked at a lot of football during the Super Bowl. Started even with the pre-show.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what we call it?
Sure.
I
don't know why this is so cute.
And there was a lot of music. Is there usually performances in the pre-show?
All over the place. The Lady Gaga one, I'm sure you're speaking of, where they shut down Bourbon Street. It was weird. Yeah, the T-shirts and the mock segment.
All of those first responders standing there. Who was at work? Did we have the B team at work that night? Hate to go to the emergency room on that night.
Well, as you're about to be reminded, in I think a week, NOLA's a pretty lively place. I probably shouldn't say NOLA because I know I'm not saying that with the right New Orleans accent and flair, but every first responder, Tom Brady and everyone else's weird T-shirts, they're all watching a concert. Lady Gaga in this case.
I know. There was no emotional reaction, good or bad. They looked like animatronic figures.
I didn't think they were really in Bourbon Street. I thought that was CGI for a long time.
Well,
and I'm like, they really shut that down, didn't they?
My first thought, as someone who has worked in hospitality, how did they convince all of these businesses to close during the biggest tourist event apart from Mardi Gras, unless they paid them all a pretty fucking penny, which is possible. So I don't know.
It's almost as if New Orleans is a little corrupt sometimes. I wonder how many under the table things were going on to make that happen.
Dare you?
You are already a local, and you haven't even arrived with your little champagne outfit. Have there been any new additions?
Not yet.
We have a new graphic. I think I sent it to you. Yes.
We do have a new graphic, thanks to 5Fan Photoshop. It's a play on, if anyone, I'm pretty sure this is a store around the country, Joanne Fabrics. So that font, it's me crafting, and I have not made any progress. I tend to get really into something and then abandon it.
Kate, by the way, the ukulele over there's got a lot of dust on that. You want to just kind of maybe dust that off a little bit?
No, it doesn't, because Douglas plays it every once in a while. But yeah, I'll get back to it. I go in waves of interest. I also did just order rhinestones and fabric glue to bedazzle more of my costume,
You can take the girl out of Jersey. There it is.
Yeah, or really the girl out of dance competitions.
Yeah.
We would bedazzle all of those costumes. But yeah, watching the game last night definitely made me excited to go. Less excited for the crowds,
No kidding.
but I think it will be manageable. Fingers crossed. Um, all right, so clearly we have to talk about the game. Gosh, let's start with the actual game part of the game, the football. God, I would like to know if there was a study done or an article written about the sports betting that took place yesterday and how many people, or not 2 days ago by the time this airs, how many people had the Chiefs at 0 going into the halftime performance. I think very few.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. There's a lot, much money was lost on any type of bet. I think really anything score wise. I don't see how anyone could have seen this one coming. I mean, they were shut out, I think, going into the
Yeah.
fourth, which is just unheard of. I don't know when the last time that happened. I think that was the biggest point differential in Super Bowl history. I could be wrong. Boy, nobody saw this coming.
Yeah.
I just was hoping it would be a game. I thought it was a foregone conclusion that the Chiefs are going to win. But if you are going to beat the Chiefs, you got to give them a not TKO in the first, maybe the second, and then keep applying the pressure because if they get even remotely close to you. That's why the announcers weren't trying to get people to keep watching the game. They legit believed up until the fourth, I would say, that the Chiefs could still come back because they always find a way to win. That's how they do. That's why they're there. And the Eagles just knew that they suffocated. Saquon Barkley wasn't even a factor, and it was said that he's like the best running back in the league. So of course the Giants lost him, but he plays for the Eagles now, and they said that the only way the Eagles had a chance is if it was a running game, keep the ball out of Mahomes, and he racks up a bunch of yards, and he was a complete and total non-factor, and they still won.
Yeah. I
Sizably.
I learned something. I think this was maybe going into the fourth quarter that, what was it? Mahomes was sacked like 5 times. And this was without any Eagles blitzing. They weren't even blitzing, which I think is what you do. There's more people.
That would be the game plan. Well, by the way, I'm getting very impressed with your looking.
Thank you. I'm also listening. It's,
It's both.
Yeah.
If people would just approach relationships the way you do football, I think that this world would be a lot better place.
Gosh,
I always tell them you gotta look, but you also
gotta listen.
You gotta listen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man. It was It really. I mean, it's almost as simple as the game plan being everything everyone kept saying, color commentator wise, all the prognosticators, they did the opposite. And the Chiefs just didn't see it coming. But
speaking of our announcers, is that what we call them?
Sure.
Was this the first one that Tom Brady did?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, you know what?
I don't know if you could guess it.
Really fun commentary because he's still so close to his retirement. He's still young comparatively to some of the others. However, he's got to work on his announcer voice.
Oh, yeah?
The guy he was with, it's butter. It's silky. It's like announcer porn. But for Tom Brady, it's just like a little nasal and it's a little casual and it's just Tom being Tom. And I want a little more finesse. I do, because not only am I watching, I'm listening. And I like a little more zhuzh.
Interesting. I like the Gronk, any chance he got, would be like, well, when we beat the Chiefs, this is how we beat the Chiefs. He needed to remind everyone when he and Tom were in Tampa.
Speaking of Gronk and commercials.
Yes.
I started counting all the ones I saw with Gronk in them. And it was only 3. But
I thought it was more than that. Wow.
But those were during the game. He's also been in ones, I'm sure, where they didn't want to pay for
Oh, sure.
prime time spots. But he was in a Pizza Hut commercial, an animal control promo, and a Tostitos promo. Yes. May I continue with other commercials that I saw and enjoyed?
Please, because I'm already kind of getting a little foggy on which ones are good.
Okay. Dunkin'. Every year, we like to see what Dunkin' does. I think they hit it out of the park this year, and
The
here's why.
Dunkins were back.
Last week, they must have heard us and changed the ad, because remember when I asked about coaches in commercials, specifically the Chiefs coach, and you said, "Oh yeah, he's great, he's fun personality. It's the ones without personality who really aren't in the ads, like Bill Belichick." Well,
There.
he
Yes.
was in this Dunkin' ad, standing behind the Affleck brothers, right? That's Casey.
That was
Casey
his,
Affleck?
yes, and that was Casey. And by the way, Casey takes himself so seriously that I thought I was overjoyed to see
Yeah.
him wearing the Dunkin's
Yeah.
uniform.
I also thought it was brilliant that they had actor Jeremy Strong in the ad, who we have talked about before with his method acting. And he was poking fun at himself in this ad by really getting into character and just submerging himself
Yes.
in a vat of coffee and grounds. And I thought that was delightful.
I so agree. And the great thing about that joke is it works on a lot of levels. The average, particularly maybe if they actually live in Boston, but your average Dunkin' Donuts coffee enthusiast probably doesn't even know who Jeremy Strong is.
Yeah.
And if so, even less so, probably knows about his reputation for method acting. But if you didn't know any of those things, it's still kind of funny.
Yeah.
It's like all they know, oh, it's an actor and he's getting really into the role. You're still going to have a good time with it. Yeah, that's the mark of a good gag right there.
I also appreciate that they made fun of Starbucks. In the
Yes.
ad, it was not Starbucks. I think it was like Seattle-based coffee company. But at one point, I think it was Ben Affleck makes fun of like the type of coffee people order, which I have always said, if you want a cup of afternoon milk, just get a cup of milk. Or if you want your juice because you're a baby, then do that. But they totally made fun of it. They were like, "What? No, we want the beans and the water." And I just thought it was great.
No, you're right. I think that was probably my favorite one. And yeah, you're right. I think we willed it into happening last week. We are
So
quite
you're welcome, America. Here's what I thought was weird. There were two commercials that were very similar. The first being a commercial for Little Caesars Pizza with Eugene Levy.
Yes. Oh, that's right. And to the point, I might have indulged a little bit. I thought it was the same ad campaign.
No.
That is interesting.
For those who didn't watch, in this Little Caesars commercial, he tries these new like little pizza bites, and he loves them so much that his eyebrows raise, and then he's known for his very thick, bushy eyebrows. They float off of his face and start flying around.
So great and weird.
Landing on a baby, it's in nature, and everyone's like, wow, this is a wonder to behold.
Yes.
Then there was a commercial for Pringles, and it was a flying mustache, or a bunch of flying mustaches, because I guess on the can, the Pringles can, it is that face with the mustache.
Yes.
And that's flying around everywhere. And I turned to Douglas and I'm like, wait, this is the exact, and he goes, no, the other one was eyebrows. This is a mustache. I just thought that was so strange. And I wonder if they knew of the other before the other was made, or like how that worked, or who got fired. I don't know.
There's got to be somebody who's in charge of ad sales or everything like that, because one company's probably not going to necessarily talk to the other just on a whim. But yeah, you would think there'd be some sort of quality control with all that. That is so weird. I was kind of half paying attention at that point, and I saw the flying of the mustache. I'm like, that must be the same thing, and then got back to whatever else I was doing. But that is fascinating. Yeah, that's really weird.
Yeah. And as for the commercials, I always hate the Dove commercials, because I have often said they prey on women's insecurities, but do it in a way that's supposed to make you feel empowered. But remember, they're selling you soap. They are selling you a product and they're saying you will feel better with our product. You need us, which is not the case. But in this one, it was a 3-year-old girl who was just running joyfully on a sidewalk. And then it was like, look at how far these legs carry her. In about 10 years, she's going to hate those same legs. And
I
then
didn't
it
even
was
see that
something
one.
like adolescent athletes get body criticism and feel bad about themselves, but get Dove. And it's like, what? What? So yeah, not a fan of
see,
those.
I would have thought you would have been fine with that commercial because in your brain you would be thinking, well, all right, they cast a little girl in this one, so I wouldn't have gotten that part anyway.
Oh, yeah, that's fair. Wouldn't it be funny if I did audition for that?
By the way, speaking of products, and then I don't want to, because I'm enjoying your Super Bowl thoughts, so I don't want to veer too far away from this. We don't necessarily need a graphic, but I'll be interested in your thoughts on this, because it involves you. I had a dream
Oh, okay.
really quickly, but it's an interesting one. I had a dream that you and Douglas came back from New Orleans. I stopped myself from saying NOLA. Um, and you both, and apparently this was the theme for the Mardi Gras was Star Wars, and you both came back with his and her lightsabers, and they were movie quality, and you were showing them off on our
You were
thing,
jealous, right?
and I was jealous, yeah.
Yeah.
But you were also dressed up like a Jedi, like you really got into it,
The
and you
question
came
is,
back dressed like that.
did I make the costume?
I don't know. It was one of those really quick ones right before. I already have my own explanation of why the stream happened because I woke up and I'm like, oh, I gotta make sure I don't sleep in because I'm doing this show today, and I immediately went right back to sleep. So that was in my head, and then I guess I was thinking about Star Wars.
Yeah. Gosh, in the realm of possibility, that is like really close to impossible because
Yeah.
I would never spend my money on that.
Yeah.
Now, if it were given to me for free, I would maybe show it here on the podcast, but then I would immediately throw it away or
All that
try to
tracks.
sell it. I don't
All
know.
the tracks. Yeah, you had your hair like the Daisy character in the last three stages. It was like, oh, and this ornate ponytail. I'm like, I didn't really remember her being this into Star Wars.
Yeah, wouldn't that be funny if I was like a closeted Star Wars super fan?
In my dream world, you are, and Douglas is right there with you. You guys are just wearing his or hers Jedi costumes.
Yeah. Now, in this dream, was he my brother or not?
Yeah.
Speaking of performance, the
yes.
halftime show.
Didn't know any of the songs.
Okay, I didn't know many, but Douglas is a Kendrick Lamar fan. He's listened to a bunch of his albums. And so in the commercial break before the show, he was playing some of the songs that I might know. And I did know a few. I don't know a ton. But for everyone saying, oh, it's an age thing, just the younger people know him. That's not entirely true because Douglas is almost 41. So it just depends on how into music, especially rap music, you are.
Sure.
I loved the performance, and it's mostly because of the choreography.
I knew it.
Those dancers
Yeah, that's cool.
and the staging was freaking incredible. Again, I didn't know a lot of the songs or the rapping. SZA, I thought was great. She was the girl who
She's
came out. But man, the dancers, the costumes, apparently there's lots of Easter eggs in there. The main one being, so Kendrick Lamar has a huge beef with Drake, who is another rapper. And he most recently won an award for his album, which was essentially like a diss album to Drake, or so I'm told from Douglas. Now, there is this, in this one song, I think calls Drake a pedophile. So he was wearing a lowercase letter A necklace, and it stood for a minor. Apparently, this is what I've read, which I love. I do love
That's not bad.
I love diss Easter eggs like that. I think it's delightful. Like, apparently, when he recently won his award, I guess it was at the Grammys, he was wearing a denim jacket and denim jeans, otherwise known as a Canadian tuxedo. Drake is Canadian. Also at this performance,
He's turned it into an art form. He really has.
Serena Williams came out and was dancing on the side for a little bit. Apparently, Drake used to date Serena Williams.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So I love petty shit like that. So
Wow.
all about it.
That is next level.
Yeah. And they had Samuel L. Jackson come out and do, it really was an art piece. I think there was a larger social commentary there about the media and what's expected from Black artists. But
it was Samuel Jackson as Uncle Sam.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And I would argue, for those of you who said you did not like the halftime performance, that's okay. However, I want us to use our little discerning brains and be able to say why. In, 7th grade, I took a music appreciation class. And you weren't allowed to just say you don't like something. You had to articulate why.
We need more teachers like this.
Because otherwise, you're just yucking our yums. And you know how I don't like that.
Yes, you don't.
So if it's the rapping, what is it about the rapping? Is it hard for you to understand the lyrics?
I had a hard time with that.
Is there too much cursing? Do you not like cursing?
Oh, I do not.
Is there something about the musicality that you don't care for? Is it the speed? Let's just kind of try to think a little more.
Well, this is the best looking at football and football adjacent things I've ever heard you do. And you have now made me appreciate the halftime show. I was an agnostic. I didn't really have an opinion. I was like, nah, okay. I didn't know any of those things. And I had a hard time understanding a lot of what he was. Boy, I'm old. But you have now made me appreciate it. I am now rethinking everything. That's not too shabby. And by the way, I hate to admit it, I didn't put together the Samuel Jackson Uncle Sam thing until you were talking right now.
Oh my God, really? Yeah, visually it was great. If nothing, shout out to the cameraman and the lighting and the crew. They also employed so many dancers, which is so nice to see. So, I don't know. I thought it was just enjoyable. It was cool to watch.
You've made me appreciate it.
There you go.
Very well done.
Speaking of, we had nachos last night. Oh, yeah. Douglas made chili. He made a cheese sauce. We did not make the tortillas. We bought chips, but
see, would seeing his flying eyebrows take you out of it? Would you not want them after that? I mean, does that make them appetizing? It was a funny commercial. I actually LOL'd, but I don't necessarily know if it makes you want to eat a Tostito.
I always want to eat a Tostito.
Sorry.
Come on. But we did a whole sheet pan and just covered it in chips and the cheese and the chili, and we had beer, and it was just freaking delightful. I was so full, but it was really good.
I think I can count on one hand the amount of times I've seen you drink beer. So there you go. That's pretty interesting.
But that's the thing. I had my first sip and I was like, am I at a baseball game? I feel like I really only drink beer in a ballpark.
You had quite the night. Good Lord.
Yeah, no, it was nice. Just at
How
home.
You feeling this morning?
Fine. I didn't have a satisfying poo, but
you don't with those now.
My trip to the gym might be helpful on that front.
Or a Dunkin' Donuts coffee.
How was did you spend the Super Bowl in Jersey, I'm assuming? For those who are just listening, Bill, I believe, is in his parents' basement.
Well done. Yes. My folks are out of town, but I'm here with my aunt, and so we watched it together. So it doesn't get more red carpet than that.
Wow.
Yeah.
And did you serve your aunt nachos?
We got delivery burgers.
Oh, yum.
Yeah, so my morning's a little as well. But and not she wasn't aware of much Kendrick Lamar's canon as well, as you might imagine.
Canon. Yeah. I did do a little research on Kendrick Lamar. I was watching, and I thought to myself, he looks short.
I thought of that as well. Yes.
Turns out he's 5'5".
Interesting.
Yeah, he
Now,
is my height.
I assume Drake uses that in his diss tracks. That seems like
I'm
it, or is it too cheap?
I'm not sure. I don't know that Drake is definitely taller. Well, now I got to look it up because I'm so curious.
Like a cat. No, you're right.
Drake
He was. It's
height.
rare that I'm able to even ascertain how tall or not tall someone is. In this case, he made the mistake of hiring a lot of dancers that were far taller than him. What did we know? What the? This is probably a very stupid question, but again, not a huge Kendrick fan. Uh, what was the significance of the Florida? That's what it said on the jacket. Is that where? I mean, I assumed he was from New Orleans,
Who, Kendrick
or
Lamar?
yeah, or did it say NOLA on his jacket? And I
I'm
misremembered.
not sure. I didn't see the writing on the jacket. I believe Kendrick Lamar is from Compton, California,
Hmm.
is what Wikipedia told me last night.
Okay, I thought it was New Orleans related because there was
Looks
a big thing. Um, what's the name? Little. God, I'm old. There's a rapper from New Orleans, and he was upset that he did not get to do it, but he's not as big as Kendrick Lamar, so that was the main reason why. Not Little John, but
Yeah.
one of those.
You know what? Artists, welcome to disappointment. I
Yeah.
feel it almost every day.
Aw.
Drake is 5'11", by the way.
Oh yeah, tower. Might as well tower over him, and a little bit me. But you know what'll boost your mood, Joe?
What?
Cocaine. Well, I assume you agree. First of all, maybe give that a shot today. It's certainly going to clear you out, nacho wise.
You know what? Should I try it in New Orleans for the first time?
Please, yes, and report back. I believe we have a graphic for Joe doing just that. Goodness, how this is why I should be in a much better mood than I am. You guys, I hate saying you guys. Colombia's president is calling for the legalization of cocaine. I mean, talk about a bold new world.
Of all the presidents, too.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
shocked.
Seriously. Cocaine is illegal because it is made in Latin America, not because it is worse than whiskey. President Gustavo Petro said during a nationally televised government meeting last week. Scientists have analyzed this, he said. Cocaine is no worse than whiskey. The left-wing president said that the global cocaine trafficking industry could be, quote, easily dismantled if they legalize cocaine in the world. It would be sold like wine. Love it. The remarks are likely to raise eyebrows in Washington, you think, where President Trump has vowed to crack down on cross-border trafficking of drugs, especially fentanyl. The Financial Times reports. Petro said during the Tuesday meeting that the synthetic opioid is, quote, killing Americans, but it's not made in Colombia. I mean, this guy's doing his homework here. Cocaine production in Colombia rose 53% to a record high in 2023. Boy, that war on drugs, it works and it continues to work. The first full year of Petro's presidency, his government has sharply reduced police and military actions against cocoa farmers. That might have something to do with it, focusing instead on seizing shipments at sea. Joe, what are your thoughts?
Okay, last I checked, the president of Colombia is not a doctor or a scientist. I could be wrong, but I don't know that it should be consumed as easily as wine or whiskey. Although I might agree on one point. So if we were to treat cocaine like some people treat their bourbon, let's say. So bourbon can only be classified as bourbon if it's, oh my God, now my bartending training is failing me. It has to have a certain amount of corn, or it has to be distilled in a certain way in order for it to have the classification of bourbon. There's purity sort of standards involved. Now, if we could find a way, because so many of these cocaine deaths, right, are fentanyl. It's not actually I'm certain some of it is the drug, but it's whatever it's it's laced with. So
Exactly.
if we could get to a point where the drug is so precious to the makers in the way that bourbon or whiskey is, and the consumer also wanted to make sure they were receiving the highest form, then maybe it could be safer. But I think when most people are reaching for a glass of cocaine, they aren't so concerned with the purity, unfortunately.
I have read that a cocaine in its purest, most distilled straight from the cocoa plant, based in Colombia, type style, whatever you want to call it, that not only do you get the depression afterwards, that's usually the big hangover from cocaine. The serotonin levels are all off the map, and you're in bummer land, basically. Um, Nor would you get the nosebleeds that sometimes occur if it is laced with a lot of other things, and oftentimes laxatives. Um, but not only do you just hear a choir, after that first sniff, but you don't get any of those bad things. You're certainly not going to overdose. Now, sure, if you have a heart issue or some other vascular type problem, perhaps it would be best for you not to do a cocaine trip to Colombia and visit one of their vineyards. But other than that, I don't think it really is that bad for you, and nobody likes talking about that because that goes against the whole deep pounding, holding their breath, war on drugs people, and all the good that they've done us since the war on drugs began in the early 70s. Oh, wait, they haven't done any good at all, and it's been a colossal, huge failure, and we have wasted trillions of dollars on nothing. And people just can't take a loss. They keep throwing money at failure because they don't want to think about how this could have possibly been absolutely fruitless. Right up into the Just Say No campaign with Nancy Reagan in the 80s, all of that stuff. I mean, I like where this guy's coming from. I know that's gonna shock a lot of people, but I think this is the way to go. And then once he legalizes it in Colombia, and people see that that things have gotten so much better, they're gaining lives. I don't think they have that many deaths from inhaling it anyway, but I think that this is going. I'm hoping that this is going to be a spark that starts a fire, Joe.
Well, I know a lot of people were concerned with the legalization of marijuana, and their argument being that it was a gateway drug, which has been debunked by, I think, a lot of people.
Oh yeah.
But can cocaine be a gateway drug though?
I don't know what the evidence is on that, pro or con. You know me, I say legalize it all. If people want to hurt themselves, that should be their choice. You legalize it, you regulate it, and here's something the government likes: you tax it. That's kind of music to their ears. I know, like they like the billions that they've gotten from taxing the cannabis. So you do all those three things, and you use that tax money, as they have been more with the gambling than the weed, to help facilities with people who have addictions, stuff like that, and ad campaigns showing, or if you have a gambling problem, all that kind of crap. So you do that, and not only are you just absolutely kickstarting the old economy, but you're going to end up doing more good than bad, because again, people are going to get the right kind of heroin. They're going to get the right amount. They won't overdose with that. I mean, choose your own adventure with whatever drug you want to talk about. But that's how it works, and it's just mind blowing that we are too stupid to look past our own nose on this topic. But I like the cut of this Colombian president, Jib, even though I've already forgotten his name.
Maybe you should move to Colombia and spearhead the movement to.
Don't you mean spear nose?
Nice. I wonder, yeah, the war on drugs has been huge for decades. But what about research and development for things that could, I don't know, combat addiction? Right? And I think they found, right, that there's a genetic component to that.
Oh, sure.
Is there a way to then isolate that gene or do something that can,
we never get to those
curb
Ozempic
addiction?
stories, but it seems to me like we're on the right track with that stuff like that.
Yeah.
Although they see, that's the thing. there's also a depression factor too, because I remember when James Gordon came out saying that he tried Ozempic and it didn't work for him because he realized wasn't eating for the reason that Ozempic helps you to stop eating. I think it curbs appetites. I mean, there's something else going on with him with regards to how eating as much as he does. And I think with people that eat their feelings, maybe it's not about being hungry or not being able to stop. It's something else. And so for those that do drugs because they are just monumentally depressed or whatever, I don't necessarily know if the Ozempic and the Ozempic-related drugs are going to help them, if that makes sense. If they are just stone cold addicted and they are trying to stop, if it's more like a smoking thing, then I think it will help.
Yeah. As we all know, I'm a normie, and I can stop after eating one Oreo.
That's not normal.
But I know a lot of people are not in that same boat. But it's hard. It's hard for me to kind of wrap my head around.
I know
those sorts of compulsive or addictive.
Well, and the most important thing is not only can't you wrap your head around it, you have zero sympathy for it.
Yeah. Well, no, I have some sympathy. I don't have empathy. I don't know what that feels.
I don't think you have either. I'm surprised you even said the words.
Unless looking in the mirror is an addiction, because hey, I can't stop.
I believe it is. I don't know if it's called the addiction. It might be narcissism.
Yeah. Is that genetic?
Maybe. Good point.
I don't know. Well, you know what? President of Colombia, at least you're asking the questions. You're asking the right questions.
And it's G.I. Joe once taught me, no one's half the battle.
That's true.
Yeah. So I part of me wants to look up some of the fun facts he was giving us, especially the whiskey and cocaine thing. But I don't want to. I want to just pretend that it's correct. I don't want to Google and find out that he's dead wrong.
Well, I mean, he really kind of lost me when he started using multiple metaphors. Is it whiskey? Is it wine? Pick your alcohol, dude.
All of them triggered me. I all of a sudden started getting very thirsty. But yeah, we're creating a dialogue, and that, as you know, is my favorite thing to do.
I thought your favorite thing to do was watch movies about witches. Segue.
Nice seg.
Before we go today, I want to hear about your experience. You finally watched the film Wicked.
Or more specifically, I watched my niece Helen dressed up as Elphaba.
The green one?
Yes, it was very Rocky Horror Picture Show where she was quite literally acting out, and the choreography. I let's have a review, and this is how you'll appreciate it.
Okay.
And more just questions for you,
Sure.
as you seem to be an authority. My brother liked the story of you seen it alone with a can of champagne and crying. He liked that image.
Yeah.
Helen wasn't listening. So she has got the little hat, the crooked hat and everything, and the cape. So what was the dance thing? This isn't really a spoiler, but they have some sort of like prom at their Hogwarts Academy, and they make her wear this hat that's supposed to she's supposed to be made fun of for wearing this, but she decides to take back the night and not only own the fact that she's wearing this hat, which strangely becomes the archetype for all witches everywhere, but she does this sort of like artistic interpretive dance without any music until finally Glinda decides to partner up with her and mimic her weird this thing. It was almost like the Joker scene where he's dancing.
Okay.
What is that?
I will break this down for you in a way you will understand. In Billy Madison, in that film, where I didn't
see this coming.
Where he goes back to school, Adam Sandler.
Yes.
There is a young boy who pees his pants. His classmates see. So that little boy who peed his pants is Elphaba, okay?
Yes, that's great.
He's going to be bullied and like kind of shamed, and he's different. Adam Sandler is Glinda, the good witch. And he's like, shit, you just pissed your pants. Everyone's going to make fun of you. You know what? I'll piss my pants too, and it'll be cool. And so he does. And then that's where the friendship forms between Elphaba and Glinda. Glinda saved her.
That part I get, but why did she do it to begin with? I mean, she is curious. She is smart. She happens to be green. All of that. So that separates her. That makes her different from others. Okay, fair enough. But then this comes out of nowhere. And why did she do it to begin with? What was that? It was so strange and so not of the rest of the vibe of the movie, you know? There's no explanation.
Yeah,
You
but
see what I'm
you could
saying?
argue that her vibe, she wouldn't really go to a party in the first place. But she was invited. She's trying on this idea of maybe I could be like the rest of my classmates. And sometimes when everyone's eyes are on you, maybe you don't make the best choices, but you're like, well, hey, I'll throw a Hail Mary pass football and I'll
Nice.
see if I get a touchdown. We'll see if it works. And as soon as she starts moving, she's like, well, it's too late to stop now. I guess I got to keep going. And then suddenly
So
she
weird.
realizes it wasn't, yeah.
There was lots of that stuff and no
But
music.
it's also just a weird fucking musical. Not everything has to be justified in the storytelling.
It's a cop out. Well, I'll see your Billy Madison analogy and raise you can't buy me love, where he instead his little brother gives him a tribal African anteater dance as a joke for him to learn, so that he knew how to dance while trying to be cool at the prom. But because he is already so popular, because he's dating the cool girl, everyone ends up just starting to mimic his African anteater dance. And only the nerds knew what they were doing. So there's a little bit of that in there as well.
Yeah.
Everyone started doing the dance.
It seems to be a common trope in dance film.
Well, I'll tell you one thing Helen is very good at. She's good at mimicking the movie and just killing me with the spoilers. I know who's going to be the Tin Man. I know who's going to be the Scarecrow. Like, everything. Oh, yeah. And I to the point where Alfred's like, oh, stop. And so then she thought she was being sly. And I'm like trying to be supportive. But I'm like, I don't really want to know this stuff.
But how does she know that? Did she see the Broadway show?
I don't know. I mean, I think that she got some of the
Alfred.
Easter eggs. I know. I don't know how I don't know if she Googled it. Maybe some of her friends told her, but she was telling me everything.
Yeah.
Excuse me. But, but it was something. 3 hours, man. And that's just intermission. Ends at intermission. Unbelievable.
Yeah. I don't know. It didn't feel that long to me.
Shocking.
Although when you're watching a child perform next to it, I would probably be like, this is too much.
Even if I wasn't. I mean, I appreciate the effort. I like that Helen liked it. But, wow. I got to go memorize that dance. Joe, what do you got?
I will be next week hosting the 7th annual Step into the Spotlight Soiree and Talent Competition for the Zach G. Applaud Our Kids Foundation. It is a central New Jersey nonprofit that places kids in ongoing performing arts lessons if they come from low socioeconomic status. So basically, growing up, I could take every dance class and thing I wanted. My parents spent way too much money on it, but there are some kids whose parents can't. And so I am raising money. I would like to help put one kid through a year of music lessons, which is just over $1,000. So if you go to my social media, specifically Instagram, there is a link in my bio. Click on that, scroll down to my name, and donate $5, which is less than a cup of Dunkin'.
Nice.
And you can help put a kid in arts classes. So I thank you in advance. Appreciate it.
I will do that. Very good of you for pretending that you have a heart. You put the heart in good heart. How about that?
Thank you. I do it just once a year. I don't work too hard.
Still, it's commendable. Bowery Boys Walks, guys. It's February, but you know what? Actually, the weather, well, snowy, very snowy. We didn't even get to that. It's walkable, and you can come and I'll show you the neighborhood, and it's much better than those YouTube videos because they're usually wrong with their facts.
Totally.
And certainly don't use AI. Come on, you need the real thing. So
yeah.
Let's go on there and hit Turtle Bay Doors and you can find mine. More walks to come, hopefully.
All right, bye, guys.
I'm sure glad that's over.
That's all for this episode of Mornin' with Bill and Joanne.
I wasn't even listening. I was listening to podcasts.
Shut up, Bill.
Subscribe to the show on Apple, Spotify, or anywhere you get podcasts.
Yeah, I wasn't listening either.
Very nice, Joanne. Touché.
For videos of this and other episodes, go to @MorninBillAndJoe on YouTube.
Bill, put the sword down.
Run, Joanne, run!
Like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. We would do it for you. Okay, that's a lie.
I never liked your show.
Sorry, wasn't listening. See ya.